Yeah, it's Cash. Get him. DJ Deuce McGuire, this hot as a log fire. Spark the lighter in the 303. We wrestle at the quarry. Golden, Colorado. Mercury Pro Wrestling Academy. Elevated wrestling. Yeah. Hashtag follow if you know the motto. Can't stop now. Got the need for speed. Combustion and concussion. Championships in my vision. I put the key in the ignition. Such an easy decision. I got a hustler's ambition. Wrestling at its best. Welcome to the show I put on for Rocky Mountain Pro. Let's go.
RMP Radio is back on the air. Hi, I am your host, Mr. Fourth Row, and joining me on this edition is CJ Pricefield. CJ, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I am doing just fine. So, like we do here on RMP Radio, we get to know a little bit more about the person behind the wrestler, and you and I talking over the few months, and last time we talked on the other podcast, one of the things that you kind of do on the outside, and some people to the viewing of the Rocky Mountain Pro Twitch channel, is that you're interested in the cooking realm. What got you into that?
Cooking's just something that I've always kind of been interested in. Growing up, my grandma only had like one arm, so it was hard for her to cook, so I did most of it, and I always had fun doing it. So one day I just decided to do a cooking show for the RMP Twitch channel.
Awesome. So, did you kind of learn any trade secrets or any kind of special things that your grandmother did or taught you when you helped her out?
Not really a whole lot. Like a couple of things for certain recipes I learned. But for the most part, when I did the cooking show, I would just look up the recipe online and then do it. So I kind of cheated a little bit there.
Okay. All right, I gotcha. So let's just continue with the helping grandma out. Any kind of memorable moments with her doing that?
When it comes to cooking, every Christmas we would do these. They're like Norwegian butter cookies called kringles.
Okay.
So every year I would help her make those for the Christmas meetups that the family would do and everything.
Yeah.
And that was fun.
Well, that's cool. So, is that tradition continue on to this day?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
She passed a couple years ago, and I never really remembered how to make those.
Oh.
So it's kind of a lost art for now.
Right. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was kind of curious. In my family, the Christmas Eve tradition is my aunt makes lasagna, and we're not necessarily Italian or anything like that, but I just kind of cool those traditions that every family has for like the holidays and things like that. So
yeah, lasagna is a pretty big tradition in mine. Thanksgiving, instead of turkey, we'll do lasagna.
Oh, cool.
People will just kind of bring in whatever. So, yeah, lasagna is always a good option if you don't want to do the traditional turkey or ham or anything like that.
Right, yeah, and I think that's where we got was for Christmas, people were kind of tired of doing the ham thing, so we decided to do the lasagna thing. So
yeah, just try something different, mix it up, and see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so what precipitated the doing the cookie show on Twitch for Rocky Mountain Pro? Is it just looking for content and everybody was going they were going around to everybody and asked what can you provide to the channel?
Yeah, sort of. They were just looking for content, and I was originally going to do like a video game show, but then that's kind of what everybody was doing.
Yeah.
So I just sort of thought about what other skills do I have, and then I just thought, oh, cooking show, I can do that. I like cooking. I can do, cookies, my own tortillas, things like that. So I just kind of started expanding the idea.
And what's kind of like your favorite types of dishes to prepare?
I would say anything that's quick. A lot of the stuff that you make from scratch just takes a long time, and it's just such a long process to do. So if you can just throw a couple things together and get it really quick, I always enjoy those.
And that was, from my understanding, when I was viewing some of that stuff, that was kind of like your focus for the show.
Yeah, for the most part, it was just kind of like what's the simplest way to make something. Then, like I said, I didn't want to spend 4 hours making something on a cooking show. Just kind of try to get it done in one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So as Rocky Mountain Pro is kind of recharging their batteries here for 2020, thoughts getting that show kind of re-energized?
Honestly, I haven't had any thoughts right now. It was just such an expensive thing because on top of the food I was already buying for myself, and I had to spend an additional 70 to 80 a week sometimes. And it was just something that I couldn't do for very much longer when I stopped doing the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't have any urge to get back to it anytime soon. Maybe at some point later on in the future, but for now, I really haven't thought of starting it back up again.
Okay. Well, just sitting on this side of the ropes and all that kind of stuff like that, and this side of the show, maybe thoughts about maybe kind of maybe food tips, things like that for like fellow wrestlers and things like that. What do you think about that?
That wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I do a lot of dirty bulking, which means you pretty much just eat everything you get your hands on.
Right.
You don't even look at the health factors of it. You're just, what are the calories, and then just eat as much of it as you can.
Yeah.
So I'm not the best person to ask for like health tips.
Right.
But if you want to gain 30 pounds in 6 months, no, that's something I've done.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what was kind of your reasoning behind that? Was it just to kind of help with the punishment on doing the wrestling on toll on the body, that kind of stuff, or?
Mostly it was just to gain weight because I felt that would give me a better opportunity with New Japan.
Oh, okay.
The first time I went out to the dojo, I was at like 155 pounds, and I was one of the smaller people there. So I just decided next time I'm just gonna gain as much weight as possible. And the second time I went out there, I was at about 185, and I felt like I did a lot better that time. And I was also not the smallest guy there anymore.
Right, and you're still also trying to keep keep the balance on gaining the weight and still being able to have your agility for all the great, in my opinion, great moves that you're still able to pull off in your matches.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the harder things to do because you do have to get used to trying to jump around with that extra 30 pounds.
Right.
It's almost like jumping with almost like a full backpack on. So it's a lot harder, but yeah, it's just one of those things that balance is kind of hard to find, but I was able to somehow do it.
Yeah, I get you. So we have on RMP Radio, we've interviewed a few people, and cooking is a lot of their passion. Do you find that is the case, talking to all the guys and the gals at the shows and everything at training, and everybody's got their little passion for cooking, and anything you found out, like hints and tricks and different takes from everybody and all that kind of stuff like that?
Not really. At training and like backstage during shows, it's mostly wrestling talk.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as cooking goes, like it's one of probably the most useful life skill. So it's something that I would recommend everybody be able to do. Mm-hmm. And hearing that a lot of people there like cooking, that's always good to hear.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, another thing that you mentioned to me that you are into outside of the wrestling ring, and that's video games. What type? PC, console, a little bit of both?
Pretty much anything, honestly. I do mostly console gaming with some PC, but there are some, especially like small indie games that you can only play on PC. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of those too.
What have been like some of your favorites, at one time or another in your life? What franchises, what games, etc.?
There's a lot. I'd probably say over the past couple of years, I would say my number one favorite has been a game called Bloodborne.
Okay.
It's made by the people who made the Dark Souls games, but it's completely different from those, because in those games you kind of take your time and you can kind of use a shield to block all the enemy's attacks. But in Bloodborne, it's all about speed and just trying to dodge around everything. And there's just something about that really just set it apart. And it's probably number one on my games of the PS4, Xbox One generation list. So I would put it as one of the best games I've ever played.
Oh, awesome. What else? What other games kind of fancy you that you enjoy playing for one reason or another?
I would say I'm mostly into like story heavy games.
Okay.
But like I said, I'm into everything, so I can play something like a Gone Home, which is just a game where you explore a house and you just pick up notes to find out a story. There's no real like action in it or anything, and I'll enjoy that just as much as something like a Call of Duty or like a BioShock game.
Oh, that's awesome, cool. And once again, this seems to be like a common thread upon your fellow wrestlers in the RMP realm. You guys talk about that as well. Hey, you guys should try out this game, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of video game talk in the back. I'm not gonna say people come to me for my opinions on games, because I'm more on the controversial side of things.
Oh yeah.
A couple years ago, there was this game called The Witcher 3 that everybody, like critics, fans, everybody really loved that game, and I wasn't exactly too hot on it, and that was sort of one of my most controversial opinions. So yeah, whenever people want to know about a certain game, they'll ask me, but in general, because my tastes are so different from sort of the normal gamer out there, they'll just kind of ask ask me a little bit about it. It's just kind of like see what it is, and then usually they'll just kind of decide on their own whether they want to play it or not.
Yeah, okay, I get you. Well, what about now? Anything that you're kind of tooling around with right now? Any particular game or franchise or types of games?
Well, I just bought a Nintendo Switch, so I just finished Cuphead, which is maybe the hardest game I've ever played. And then I finished Super Mario Odyssey, which is really cool. And then I'm doing my second playthrough on a game called Stardew Valley. It's a game where it's hard to describe because there's so many things going on in it, but you're pretty much like a farmer, but you can also like fish and go into the mines and like fight enemies there. And there's also like a bunch of relationship building with all the people in the town, so you can like get to know all the characters and just kind of get to know all those people almost like real people in a way.
Sounds like that game is kind of like a big cornucopia of types of styles.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in it. And I would say it's one of my favorite games that I've ever played, because you can just kick back, relax, and just kind of hang out and farm for a couple of hours. And then once you look up at the clock, you realize that you've been playing it for 6 hours and you don't know how it went by that fast.
Yeah.
So it's one of those games you can definitely lose yourself in.
Oh wow. Oh okay. Well, what about the future on video games? Anything? We're going on to the holiday shopping season. Anything you got your eye on that you're kind of excited for? Really in the current future or a little bit distant future?
I would say as of right now, the game that I'm most excited for would be Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, okay.
That's made by the same people who made The Witcher 3. And it seems... So one of my things with The Witcher 3 was that it's like a high fantasy game, and I'm not really into that genre at all. It's one of the reasons I don't like Dragon Age games. I'm not big into like the Elder Scrolls games. I wasn't a super big fan of Game of Thrones because they're all sort of that same high fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really big into sci-fi.
Okay.
Like Mass Effect, the Fallout games, all of those kind of things. So seeing a team that knows how to tell stories and knows how to make like really well-made games. Seeing them take on a sci-fi setting is probably one of the most exciting things that I see over the next couple months or so of gaming.
Oh, cool. That should be fun. When is that? Is that going to be released here in the near future, or something just kind of down the line?
I think it comes out early next year, like
Okay.
March or April.
Cool. All right. Well, do you you have any like interest with your great fascination of video games to go into like a E3 or anything like that?
Um, E3 is kind of a weird thing because of how it's changed over the past even
Right.
like two or
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah.
And with like the way companies can now pretty much just like host their own press conferences and they can just put out their own release trailers. E3 is kind of in a weird place where it just kind of doesn't need to be. It doesn't even really need to exist anymore.
Right.
But I've always thought about going out there since they opened it up to the public, and I still think that'd be a kind of a fun thing to do. But I don't know how much longer I'll have that chance because it might not exist in a few years.
Right.
But then there's other things like it's called Penny Arcade Expo or PAX. They have one in Seattle and then one in Boston and then one down in Texas. They do a couple times a year, and that's where a bunch of people in like the video game industry they kind of all meet up there, and it's sort of like what E3 used to be, but also has always been open to fans. So I think going to something like that would be pretty cool.
Oh, okay. So more like you said, more of a convention geared to the fans versus catering to the resellers and such.
Yeah, E3 has always been kind of like a trade show where
Yeah.
they're more interested in like, you know, how they can do it as a business, whereas PAX seems more like here are the games, here are the people who make the games, here are the people who talk about the games, and it's all centered around just the games as opposed to the business as a whole.
Right. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Well, switching gears here, one other thing that I think I remember this when you had first gotten into Rocky Mountain Pro is now that you have mentioned it to me, is photography. Do I remember that maybe when you first started, you were kind of doing a little bit of the photography for Rocky Mountain Pro?
Yes, I was. It was about 6 months or so where I was kind of the main photographer during those shows. And I always had fun doing that because a lot of the guys would use my pictures as like their social media profiles.
Right. Yeah. So what piqued your what got you into photography in the first place?
So this will actually tie back into video games. There's a video game from 2015 called Life is Strange, which is actually where I take the name Pricefield from.
Mm-hmm.
The two main characters are Chloe Price and Max Caulfield, and that's sort of the combination of that. But in the game, the main character is a photography student, and the whole thing is sort of based around photography. And I just enjoyed that game so much that one day I just had some leftover money and just decided to buy a camera and just kind of started driving around the mountains taking pictures. And then because I wasn't on shows, I just asked Matt Yaden if he just needed anybody to take pictures of the show, and he said yeah, so I just started doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I now that you had mentioned it, I do remember that it. Even though it's not long ago, it seems like it wasn't. It's been an eon ago, even because RMP has so much evolved, and gotten so huge when I first started going as well. So yeah, it just seems like, and now that just like I said, I remember that. And what's kind of been your just in this particular realm, what's been kind of like some of your favorite things that you've gotten to do with the photography when it comes to either taking pictures of Rocky Mountain Pro or anything else that have done outside of that, like nature or anything like that?
I would say for the most part, I really enjoy landscape photography. I'm just big into like the mountains and trees and nature and kind of things like that. But probably the most memorable thing a couple years ago when New Japan did their first like actual major shows in the United States at it's the Long Beach Convention Center, I believe. On one of the nights, I brought my camera with me, and I was just taking pictures the whole time. And I went through and found the best ones and tweeted them to the New Japan wrestlers. And then I checked Twitter a couple days later. I don't know what prompted me to do that, but I was just on Twitter. And then I noticed that Hiroshi Tanahashi, who's, he's basically Japanese John Cena,
right?
If it's probably the easiest way to bring a comparison. He had used a picture that I took and tweeted to him as his profile picture for a couple of weeks. So that day where I found out that happened was still a major highlight.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. So I mean, your photography just in that one simple case got viewed by so many people.
Yeah, and especially because it was in between like these two big U.S. shows and their major tournament called the G1 Climax.
Mm-hmm.
It was like those 2 weeks that he had it up, and yeah, it was a really cool thing. I had a permanent smile for almost those entire 2 weeks.
Well, that is so awesome. So now with Rocky Mount Pro's got another guy kind of doing the photography. Have you been astounded by some of the shots that he's been able to get of you in the ring?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's one right now that I use as my personal Facebook profile picture. Mm-hmm. It's of me doing the jumping stomp that I always do. Mm-hmm. And he caught me in like midair in like the full formation that I'm about to stomp, and it just looks really cool.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of those pictures that are always really fun to look at too.
Yeah, it is very cool. That's great. Okay, well, rapid fire switching gears again. Another thing that you had mentioned to me is playing the guitar. How did you get involved in that?
That's something that kind of started in high school. I got really big into like heavy metal and 80s rock.
Okay.
And I, would always air guitar while listening to music. And then one day I just, asked if I could get a guitar. So we just went to the pawn shop and got a really cheap one. And then I just sort of played off and on for a couple of years, probably 5 or so years. I just kind of had it and then messed around with it every once in a while. But then once again, the video game Life is Strange. The entire soundtrack of that is basically, it's like indie acoustic kind of music. And I just enjoyed that soundtrack so much that I bought an acoustic guitar. Mm. And then I just sort of started messing around with that, trying to learn those songs, but they're all way too complex for my skill level. So then I just kind of started following some videos on YouTube of, like guitar tutorials. And that's how I discovered that Taylor Swift is maybe the best place to start if you want to learn how to play full songs on guitar.
Oh.
Yeah, because pretty much half of her songs are just 3 or 4 basic chords, just arranged differently. And they're super easy to learn. They're super fun to play, and like pretty much everybody will know at least one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's always fun. It's always fun if you're just hanging out and you just bust, You Belong With Me, or one of those songs out where everybody knows it, even though they don't want to admit it. Like you can just get a big group sing along going.
Yeah, and probably knowing you personally and stuff like that, you're actually kind of a little bit of a Taylor Swift fan, aren't you? Just because of that.
Yeah, that would probably be understating it a little. Yeah, Taylor Swift is probably at least top 2 of my favorite musical artists, bands, groups, whatever you want to call them. Just the way that she writes songs with just how catchy they are, and then how kind of lyrically they're arranged. Mm-hmm. They always stand out more to me compared to other kind of pop musicians. Like Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Billie Eilish, who I've been getting into recently. Like they're all good, but there's really something about the way Taylor Swift writes her songs that's kind of always made her stand out, even thinking back to high school. My grandma would always listen to country music radio, and I would always have my headphones in listening to, Motley Crue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But every time, they'd play Taylor Swift, I'd always kind of take one earbud out and be like, this isn't bad. I'm kind of into this. And then
Go ahead.
It's just kind of she's always kind of been on my radar ever since then.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Taylor Swift song to listen to and or play?
I would probably say to listen to would be Ready for It, because that song is basically perfect for pro wrestling entrance music. Because it just has it hits right off the bat.
Yeah.
And then it kind of comes down a little bit, and I can always visualize how I would enter to that song.
Yeah.
It always just lines up so perfectly with how that song flows. But then as far as play goes, I really don't have one in particular. But if I did, I would have to say Mean, which is probably, if not my absolute favorite song of hers, it's one of them. And like I said, that song has maybe 4 chords in it, so it's super easy to learn. And it's just such an incredible song that every time I pick up a guitar and I just put the capo on there, and I just start playing it.
Yeah, cool. So now, in your guitar playing, have you just kind of just done this on a side and just by yourself? You never got involved in a band or anything like that?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just kind of a hobby that I have.
Yeah.
I did find out that if you have an acoustic guitar and a capo, where you can just kind of move it up and down to the different frets, you can just sit there and play for 3 hours, and it all just sounds different. But outside of just kind of a hobby, I really haven't thought too much about trying to make it anything more.
Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. All right. Well, CJ, I think we will go ahead and wrap that up. That's a great place to do that. But before I do let you go, as I said, RMP is kind of doing a little bit of recharging before the end of the year and heading off into 2020. But in the meantime, if people wanted to follow up with you on the social media and all that such like that, and plug any merchandise you may have for sale as well.
Well, I don't have any merchandise, and my Twitter, I changed it to my real name. You can find that, I believe it's at Ty_Hossman93. I use that occasionally. Outside of that, I really don't have too much to plug right now.
Okay, but we do have the big RMP show at the Pepsi Center after the Mammoth game on the 4th of January, so that should be exciting. Are you excited for that as well?
Yeah, I can't wait. Everything that I've been hearing about that just gets me more and more excited for it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, all right. Well, once again, I thank you for joining me here on RMP Radio, and I will,
Thank
of course,
you for having me.
Be seeing you in the future.
Yep. Thank you again for having me, and I look forward to doing this again.
Okay. Once again, a big thank you to CJ Pricefield for coming on to this episode of RMP Radio and letting the listeners get to know a little bit more, like we do, about the person behind the wrestler. Before we go, let's pay some bills, like they used to say back in the day, and 'tis the season to be looking for gifts. So why don't get a gift for the wrestling fan in your life? Head over to rmpwrestling.com, click on the merchandise link, and or go into your Amazon search bar and search for Rocky Mountain Pro, and you got some great fantastic merchandise to choose from. Pop sockets, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, hats, short sleeve shirts, and so let's do a quick pick of the week, and maybe if you're doing some holiday cleaning because you're doing some gifts, why not do that in your Mop Boy shirt, making it a clean sweep and for the cleanest player in the game. Rocky Mountain Pros doing a little bit of recharging, so we got just a little few events for the month of December, and I'm a little bit remiss. I have forgot to tell you guys all about Respect Women's Wrestling that Rocky Mountain Pro is in partnership with. That is happening this Friday the 13th at Herman's Hideaway. You want to get tickets to that, head over to Herman's Hideaway's website or the Respect Women's Wrestling Facebook page, and you can purchase your tickets there. Got some great returning talent and new talent coming in for that show, as well as all of your Respect Women's Wrestling favorites happening at that show. As for the other events, we of course have got the Rocky Mountain Pro Experience at the end of the month, last Friday of the month on December 27th at 9 p.m. at the Rack House Brewery in Denver, Colorado. And then, of course, keep up to date with all the rest of the events coming up. Do have a couple shows to announce there. Just head over to the Rocky Mountain Pro website, click on the events link, and you will find them there. As for if you want to watch the Rocky Mountain Pro product in the meantime, before some events, maybe get caught up or rewatch some of the charged episodes, head over to either twitch.tv/Rocky Mountain Pro. You can also can find everything on the Fight TV app, as well as the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rocky Mountain Pro, as well as the Fight Network UK and Impact Plus TV, either through the website or the app. Want to follow us? Everything stems from the Rocky Mountain Pro website at rmpwrestling.com. And if you want to follow us all on the social medias, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, all of the name of the Rocky MTN Pro. And once again, that is the Rocky Mike Tango November Pro. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to this edition of RMP Radio, where pro wrestling is elevated.